back again to another episode on Mohamed Talks with entrepreneurs, motivational speakers, billionaires, millionaires, motivational speakers, of course, public speakers, and more. Today, we are going to uncover the great story of Miss Annelie Roux, where she's going to portray the great wisdom on social media when she's overflowed by young generations. But let's see how she tackles on her challenges and what her true inspiring message is. Welcome, Miss Annelie Roux. It's a pleasure to have you here, Miss Annelie. We met a while back. It was on Clubhouse. It was on the 10X Kids, and then you invited me to your room, which led to the publishing of my book. So we really have to thank Miss Annelie for all of that. And so Miss Annelie, introduce yourself. And who are you? Who is Miss Annelie Roux?
Well, I'm actually just a mum and a grandma and business person and somebody who loves being a part of my community. And, when we love being part of our community and we integrate ourselves into the community and try to make ourselves useful, we get to know such interesting people and then we want to serve them. So it's just me being part of my community and wanting to give back, which is how my parents raised me, and I think how your parents are raising you.
Thank you very much, Miss Annelie. And so the importance of generational wealth and generational understanding is big because information is being passed on from generation to generation and generation to generation, and especially the fact that motivational speaking is one of the most important aspects, and because just motivational speakers in general, they empower people. Even though sometimes the empowerment doesn't do anything, at least you hold pieces of information that act like gold diamonds. That's a word that I just made up, but I like golden bricks and diamonds that people are dropping for you. No matter how old you are, or where you are, and what time it is, you have the ability to change. You have the ability to motivate. You have the ability to do anything and everything you want. So, Miss Annelie, there are a lot of people that say, oh my God, I'm still young, or I'm super old, or I'm just, in my 20s. I still have time. Do you think it's ever too early or too late to start a business?
It's like planting trees. Somebody said the best time to plant a tree was yesterday. But you can still always plant a tree today, and there's never a best time. There is only today. We can't go back and plant that tree yesterday, and dreaming about doing it in the future is not a strategy. So just do it today.
Yeah, you heard it here first. Just do it. Taking action is the most important part. So, Miss Annelie, everyone is so excited to hear about your story. So what is your story, and what led Miss Annelie to become the businesswoman, the great motivational speaker, the great person who holds so much wisdom today? What was the story, and what were the milestones in your life?
Well, I think if I think back to my childhood, my father, well, my mother too, but mainly my father installed a good work ethic in me. So I started earning my own pocket money at the age of 5. And my father had a printing business as a side hustle. So he used to come home from work and then work in his printing business at night or early in the morning before work or on weekends. And my first job was to crawl in under the printing machine and pick up the papers that had been misfed and fell in there, because I was the only one that was small enough to go in there. So that was my first job. And then I started also sweeping the floor, worked my way up to doing typesetting, which in those days, you had these big trays with all the letters of the alphabet in lead letters, and you had to compile them and then put them in a frame, and that frame went into the printing machine, and that was used to print. So that is how old I am, Mohamed. So in my lifetime, I kind of stayed in the printing industry because I worked for my dad in his printing business until I basically finished school. And my dad was quite young when he died, and he specialized in wedding invitations and when he died suddenly from a stroke, there were people who had weddings planned and their wedding invitations had to go out. And my mom called me and she said, oh my goodness, I've got all these brides calling me. Daddy died and, they want to know where are their wedding invitations. And having grown up in the printing industry, I jumped in and I complete printing business. So, but I said, yes, of course, Mom. And so we moved it over to my place, into my garage. And I did it as a side hustle for many, many more years. And I think the important thing is that you have to grow with the times. You can't stay stagnant. So by the time I did that, they'd started changing the way they did printing. And so I started looking into computers to do typesetting because I bought a lithograph machine, which, was working a totally different way. And in my lifetime, I can remember my first computer, had 2 floppy drives. And most kids today won't even know what those are.
Floppy drive. That's
now
classic.
So now my smartphone, I can do more on my smartphone than I could do on my first computer. So it's very important, no matter what your age, that you stay in touch with technology, that you stay in touch with how things change. So you and I met on Clubhouse, for instance. So if I didn't sort of stay up to date and listen to podcasts and, do courses and things, I wouldn't have known about Clubhouse. I heard about Clubhouse because I did a course and somebody on the course was talking about Clubhouse. It was still quite new and I was like, this sounds interesting. Let me go check it out. And I don't know about you, but I've met so many amazing business people on Clubhouse and learned so much from them. So it's a continuous journey. But going back to my childhood, as I say, my father instilled that good work ethic in me. And he gave me the example that you can always add to your income. You can always make a plan. In my country, where I'm originally from, South Africa, in Afrikaans, they say, a boer maak 'n plan. And that translates to a farmer will always find a way. He will make a plan and he will find a way to solve the problem. So I think that's what my father taught me. So if I'm in a situation where I need an income or where I have a problem, I will find a way. Whereas so many people will sit back and say, well, I lost my job, or this happened, or that happened, and, I don't know what to do. I'm a victim of my circumstances. And I think that's what my dad taught me, is that you are in charge of your own destiny, and you have to make sure that you become successful in whatever way it means for you.
So be
because
the victor.
Success is not only money. It's quality of life. It's your circle of friends. It's the people who stimulate you, etc. So I'm not saying that I wouldn't enjoy making a lot of money, but in my lifetime I was fairly happy with the money I made, and I could educate my children, and we could buy a house, and we could go traveling a bit, and we never needed anything that we couldn't provide for ourselves. Now you're talking about generational wealth. Well, let me tell you that until I started listening to webinars and things, because remember, in my days, we didn't have all the social media, we didn't have Zoom, we didn't have all these things. If you wanted to learn something, you would pay a fortune and buy a set of cassette tapes from, some motivational speaker, and you'd have to listen to them, and like I say, it would cost a fortune. Now you can get that information absolutely free on YouTube. So as an adult, I've learned about, not even just as an adult, as somebody in my mature years, I've learned about things like generational wealth. And now you ask, is it ever too late? No. Now I'm starting to work on that aspect of my, you know, journey of being an entrepreneur, is creating generational wealth. I didn't know how to scale. It wasn't even in my vocabulary. I didn't know about automation. In fact, there wasn't automation. So these are all things I'm learning at a mature age, and it's never too late. So, they say you have to do what you can with what you have where you are. So no matter where you are, you have to use the information that's available to you. And it's whether you're young, whether you're old, it's just using what you have. And so I run a room called Support for Africa, where I try to help people who are doing good things in Africa to get exposure on Clubhouse and also on other platforms. Now, when you're talking about people in Africa, they don't have the same opportunities always. They might not even have access to reliable internet. And I mean, you struggle with your internet sometimes.
That's true.
Yeah, so now you're talking about people who are on a very old mobile phone that are paying a lot of money for very, very dodgy internet, and they're trying to learn what they can. And now they want to pass it on to other people, but those people don't have electricity, they don't have clean water, they don't even have enough to eat. So what do they do with this information? So that is why it's so important that we are aware of what is going on in the world and saying, okay, fine, I'm going to do what I can to build generational wealth. But we also need to think of what can I do in my community and in other communities to give back. Because if you're just going to be thinking about your own wealth and not thinking about others, you're not going to be a very happy, well-balanced person. You won't have that richness of experience and giving and association and just all the pleasure of being able. So when we talk about wealth, wealth is more than just money. It's the wealth of having good health. They say your health is your wealth. It's the wealth of having experiences like me sitting here talking to you. That makes me happy. To have seen how you have grown over the past year in what you are doing, in your confidence. I mean, you're more confident than I am now behind the camera. So that's really wonderful for me to see. And that is the kind of thing that really makes my day, not sitting at the end of the day and counting my dollars. So, it's very satisfying when you can use what your parents have taught you, apply it through your life, and then see what the rewards are that you get from that. So I hope I've kind of answered your question in a very roundabout way.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing. I'm pretty sure you sent a lot of people down memory lane with the printers on the cassette tapes. And actually, since my grandma and grandpa are both like nearly 70 years old, they have a lot of things in common with like old people. No offense to anyone who's over 90 or 80 or something. For me, like to see that everything has developed, technology, arts and crafts, sports, everything in the world has developed generationally. Like there's gonna be Generation Alpha and Beta. They named them after video game launches, but it's just the fact that more information is generated every single day thanks to technology. More information every second, really. And for me, the big message is that in a time like this, there is no time since we manipulate it. when you say 20 minutes, how do you know that that's 20 minutes? But humans invented time. Time and space, etc. That was invented by us. We called those things time and space. See, the thing is, we're manipulating our surroundings without even knowing it. Procrastinators, action takers, victims, or victors. You people still have the ability to change, and you will. Trust me, you will. Because if you believe it, it will happen.
Absolutely. So, what I want to say is that anybody who's watching now, if you are young, if you are old, doesn't matter what time of your life, you can still apply, you can still make a difference, and it makes your life so interesting. And if you are lonely, if you're saying, oh, I don't have people to associate with or whatever, the best thing is to go out there, find something you're interested in,
Expose
and yes, and join a club. And if you can't find a club, start one. So when I arrived in Cyprus about 15 years ago, I didn't know anybody. So what did I do? I started finding out where are there people doing things that I'm interested in. So I was very interested in gardening. I used to grow my own vegetables. When we lived in South Africa, I had a beautiful flower garden. So when we moved to Cyprus, I didn't know anybody. My husband was still working in South Africa, and I was there on my own. And I'm very interested in gardening and growing my own food. I used to have a very beautiful flower garden in South Africa and had a vegetable garden. But when I got to Cyprus, water is more scarce. It's very expensive. The climate is hotter and drier. And I got very interested in permaculture because, it helps you grow in proper circumstances by learning how nature does things. And so I got together with some other people. In those days, Facebook was the way to make friends and meet new people. And I started joining forums and finding out who's interested in gardening, who's interested in sustainable living, and got a few people together, and we met up at a central place. We had coffee together. We said, well, how can we do something to help everybody learn more? And so I organized a permaculture course with two other people who were interested, and we had the first permaculture course in Cyprus. And from that, a whole community grew in which I felt I could make a contribution, but where I also received so much. And then I started teaching permaculture to kids, and I started a kids club. And I started a community. So
the power of proximity, because
whatever you're interested in.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, because I was talking about the power of proximity, because Miss Annelie, you said that you met up with people, you started a club, you got into forums. The power of proximity, the internet, the technology can help us learn from each other. That's something that we've gained from development. Generations now can speak to each other without having to walk miles away from their houses.
Exactly. So you're sitting in Algeria and you are speaking to the top business people in the United States and the UK, and they know who Mohamed is.
That's the biggest part. I'm like, they know who I am. How is that possible? Like, if it wasn't technology, I'm pretty sure that successful business people don't stay around to read newspapers about a kid. So thanks to technology, you can actually expose yourself out there. Listen, there are 8 billion people. Not a lot are going to accept, and not all of them are going to deny. So you may as well shoot your shot and do what you love. Thank you very much, Miss Annelie, for joining us on today's episode of Mohamed Talks with entrepreneurs, millionaires, billionaires, content creators, public speakers, motivational speakers, and more. It was a really great and amazing journey through memory lane with Miss Annelie. Of course, we're going to put a way for you guys to contact her. If you're on Spotify, hop onto YouTube, drop a like, subscribe, and go to the description where you'll find all of Miss Annelie's links for her social media. Thank you very much, Miss Annelie. I'll see you guys in the next video or episode. See ya!